Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am super excited because joining me today is James Dunne. Hey James.
Hi Demi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I'm delighted to have you, and we have lots to chat about today. But before we get into all of those things, can you share with the listeners a little about yourself and your musical journey?
Yeah, I've started quite late in my musical journey, and I've sort of gone into the outlaw country scene over in the UK. It's sort of something that isn't really well known. When people think of country over here, they think of sort of like Nashville, and mainly they say, "Oh, do you know Dolly Parton?" That sort of stuff. But I started doing the open mic scene um, in August last year, playing sort of, other people's songs, and then started writing my own. And then sort of going from there and released my first single Duty in October. But before that, I'm a 10-year or just under 10-year Army veteran. And that sort of joined um, straight after, your equivalent of high school, really. So secondary school over here. Grew up in London to Irish parents, like expats, or immigrants, Irish immigrants, basically, essentially over here. Quite humble roots and everything, and then left the army. It's coming up to 9 years now, so I've been out as long as I was in it. Always been into country music, grew up on it, and then sort of found my niche, I guess.
That's fantastic. Such a great story. So, yeah, I like how you mentioned that country over in the UK, it's still growing. And I feel like just from my connections over there over the past few years, I've seen it grow over the past few years. And specifically, you mentioning how you focus on outlaw country, which is smaller over there. And considering country as a small genre in the UK and still growing as it is, but to be focused on a subgenre that is still growing as well. I think that's super fearless of you and also shows that you're not creating music just to fit into a thriving certain subgenre or genre of music, but you're focusing on something that you feel that you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, I think it sort of comes down to my musical tastes and everything like that. I mean, you've got obviously the original Outlaws are Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, who's you know he's 90 this year, which is incredible, and he's still gigging and touring. The man will never stop. Chris Christopherson, the likes of David Allen Coe, who's the Outlaws outlaw. Um, and obviously there's a bit of controversy around his stuff, but if you can separate the artist from the art, then you've got a good start there. He's a fantastic songwriter for the better songs. Um, and then there's the storytelling element of it. It's it's heartfelt, gritty, raw. They're not going to sing about what you want to hear. They're going to tell you their life story in song. Hank Williams started it. Hank Senior, and then his son carried it on, and then obviously his grandson Hank Three. They're carrying it on again, and it relates to me, and I'm able to portray that. For me, part of music is therapy as well, so I'm able to sort of put my perspective and spin on stuff, and I sort of sing quite metaphorically. And I was sort of brought up in a Catholic household, and there's that still, and that even though I'm not super religious, there's still that element there, So I've got a lot in my music. There's reference to God and the devil and stuff like that, and a lot of redemption, seeking redemption and everything. But strangely enough, there's no validation. I'm not looking for validation from anybody. I'll sing what I want, and if people like it, then that's a bonus. And I'm quite thankful that it's been really well received.
That's fantastic. I love so much how you're writing what you want to write about and singing what you want to sing about. And I think that all comes down to writing authentically and sharing stories that you can sing truthfully about and put, heartfelt emotion into it, because the last thing any songwriter wants is to write something they don't believe in because that won't translate to listeners. And I agree with you as well about, songwriting and music kind of being like therapy. I see it as the same way. And yeah, so you mentioned Willie Nelson a little bit
Yeah.
ago, which is a perfect transition into our quote, which is by Willie Nelson. So can you read that?
We are the same. There is no difference anywhere in the world. People are people. They laugh, cry, feel, and love. And music seems to be the common denomination that brings us all together. Music cuts through all the boundaries and goes right to the soul.
Fantastic quote. So, as you were reading that, what was coming to your mind?
The Highwaymen wrote a song, American Remains. And Willie, he's always done it his own way. He's never really cared what anybody thinks. And he's had, you know, everyone from grandmothers to the Hells Angels love him, and that relates to me because I've always been good with grandmothers, and I'm lucky enough to have friends in within that sort of demographic. Um, and I think genuinely the man's got a heart of gold. I mean, he got absolutely done over by one of his own accountants, and the man was at ruin's door. And because he was so well loved, there's people sort of pitched together and everything, didn't they? There was, I don't know if you remember reading or hearing about that. It was a good few years ago, and there's a bar somewhere in the States that they even took a collection in, and they still have the tip jar. It's called Willie's Tip Jar. I can't remember the name of the pub, but I remember reading about it and just thought it was, the man's so loved, and just an incredible songwriter. He could he could write the most beautiful love song to the heaviest ballad, and he's spanned so many generations and taken everybody from when he started out to current day. I mean, he's seven decades. The man's spanned a career almost. It's absolutely phenomenal, and he's still current. And that's what you want, and it's all truthful songwriting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, too, what you mentioned about spanning such a long period of time and being able to create music that is listened to and appreciated and embraced by many different people from all around the world, no matter age or any other cultural characteristics or anything like that, is really important. And that ties right into exactly what this quote is saying. Music has the ability to go through boundaries, and at the end of the day, we all feel the same emotions, different ways based on our own backstories and experiences and who we are, what makes us who we are. But at the end of the day, all those human emotion, we all feel all those different things. And I think being able to be a songwriter who creates music that speaks about these different emotions and shares stories with the emotions at the heart of those stories, that's what makes music connect to people from all around the world. And I think you really experience this at concerts. I was just at Kelsey Ballerini's Heart First tour. She's my favorite artist. Super grateful I got to see her live. And, being in a room full of strangers and crying and laughing at some of the stories Kelsey was saying and, singing along, you feel a sense of unity there. And that just proves that we can connect with other people worldwide just from listening to the same songs and maybe sharing stories with people over, social media or in person. But when you're actually at a concert setting, you feel that and you really see, wow, music really does make us feel things and brings people together. And I think that's beautiful. And Willie's quote really resonates with me too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, another sort of artist that I got to know him. He's based in Davie, Florida, and his name's Matt Horan, and he toured over in the UK just before Christmas, and I had the privilege of opening two of his gigs for him. And he's outlaw country, Appalachian sound, and an incredibly talented guy, and a really really humble guy. And I was able to sit down with him and have a drink with him. We're still in contact, regular contact. He's moved back to the States. He lived in the Basque Country in Spain for 15 years with his wife and child and everything. And he's moved back to the States. And you know, his songwriting is absolutely incredible, you know, and it's a very different sound. But I think the genre, the subgenre outlaw country is growing massively. And another influence is Cody Jinks as well, you know, and he's ex-US Marine Corps, I believe, you know, so there's that sort of veteran element. Another influence of mine is Brian Martin, who's taking the scene by storm by all accounts, you know, and another incredible songwriter. And he's, you know, he was worked on, um, I believe he was a driller on the oil rigs, you know, an oil man, and away from his family and that, you know, and and was able to put that into song, you know, and and again, that's just something you don't really hear anymore. You could have a team of songwriters and everything. They can write a song, knock up a song. If you're a good artist, you can make it your own. But the thing is, it's got to be believed. I mean, um, if you listen to "Dear Rodeo" by Cody Johnson, you know that's him singing about his love for rodeo. You know, because he is a cowboy. You know, he's a true cowboy Texan, and you know, but Deer Rodeo can relate to people in different ways. You know, I used to race when I left the army. I started racing motorcycles competitively, and was racing in sort of the British Superbikes for a couple of years. And Deer Rodeo kind of related to me to that because I never won anything, but I tried my best. As you know, every time I went up, you know, lined up on the grid to race my bike, I tried my best, and Dear Rodeo was a very relatable song.
Yeah, well, I think too, like speaking about how, songwriters can write a song, but the artist needs to believe what they're singing when they record that song or play it live. And I think that's where there's a little bit of a distinction between songwriters and artists. There are so many people who kind of use them interchangeably, which I don't support because a songwriter is a songwriter and an artist is an artist. But a lot of times they can be the same thing. Like I write my own music. I'm the songwriter and the artist of my music, but I think in instances of, an artist performing a song that they didn't have writing credit on that maybe was pitched to them, they need to relate to that song in some way to sing it and make it believable. So I
Yeah,
think,
because you feel,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you feel music as well as hear it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and the emotion from the artist when they're singing it, you can believe it. You know, and that's what you don't have to be the most vocally gifted artist. I don't think sometimes, you know, but as if it's felt and it's from the heart, then that's what makes it believable. It's like with my stuff, you know, I'm trying to reach out to people that aren't living the American dream, if you know what I mean, that mainstream country glamorizes. You know, I'm singing for the people who've struggled, who've had to make hard decisions, broken their bodies working to earn a crust and stuff. You know, as we say, to make money. And you know, they need their stories told, and I'll give them their voice. That's what I'm trying to do because I've come from, you know, we weren't poverty stricken, but we didn't grow up with a lot when I was growing up. You know, I was fortunate to have loving parents and supportive parents that supported my decisions. They still do. Um, they didn't discourage me from joining the army, but I know deep down, I mean, no parent wants to see their child go off to war. I served in Afghanistan and everything alongside American counterparts as well. That's where, you know, my probably where my love of country music was actually sort of strengthened as well. Um, and then coming back, I've had sort of trials and tribulations. I've had, you know, other issues, ups and downs, like major ups and downs, you know, major highs, major lows. And then, you know, it's sort of got to a point now where it's settling, you know, and sort of content with how things are. And music is just something that resonates with me and I'm able to portray it. And it's something I found that I want to do. And it's working, it's working the right way at the moment, but
Yeah.
it's a finicky business, and it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's all about realism. Like everything you just said
Yeah,
is you are singing and writing about things. You are singing and writing about things that you have personally experienced and that you feel you are in a place to talk about. Because I think the other side of this too is going back to, artists singing about things they believe in and just in general, like there are, I'm sure, instances where writers or songwriters, artists, they're writing and performing songs that are on topics that maybe they don't personally relate to. And I think when you get into really deep stuff, like the very real stuff, I think that needs to come from somebody who experienced it firsthand in order to keep that authenticity.
100%. I agree with that. I mean, you can't sing about being a cowboy if you've never ridden a horse, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of that going on, both sides of the pond, massively so. And you'll never ever hear me writing a song about being a cowboy. I've ridden a horse. I know how to ride a horse, but that's my Irish roots. But I will. I'm not a cowboy. I've seen him in fields. But ironically enough, in where my dad grew up in Ireland, he was actually a drover.
Oh, wow.
He was. Yeah. So he grew up doing that. I didn't. So I grew up in North London. So technically, I'm a city boy, but a country boy at heart because I've always found that's where I want to be. And now I live in the country. I live in the Garden of England, as they call it, in County Kent and everything. And literally, it's like narrow country lanes. You're we don't have red dirt roads over here either, so I'd never sing about them. They're just sort of like claggy clay and muddy puddles.
Yeah. Well, also too, it's really interesting because when you're speaking about, writing about such raw truths, I feel like every time you open up that way, that vulnerability in songwriting, that takes a sense of courage, I think. So for you, when you're writing about these very real experiences and truths and speaking to others in the same realm to hopefully allow them to relate to your music, what kind of emotions do you experience while you're writing and recording and performing these songs?
It's strange. I mean, I can't sit down and think, right, I'm going to write a song. I don't think anyone can, And I've had it before. I wrote a song for my partner. It's called Righteous Man. It would be coming out on my EP, which we'll get onto a little bit later. But I think I'd done a night shift at work and fell asleep on the sofa. Woke up and wrote a song within half an hour. Um, I just because I fell asleep with a melody going around my head. Um, as it happens, and then you just put pen to paper, and when they come out organically, I think they're the best songs that you can write.
Oh, yeah.
Whether somebody else believes that or not, but I don't think whether somebody, there's so many people in this world that somewhere someone's going to like it regardless of what it is,
Mhm.
if you're looking for the validation. But the most important thing is that you believe what you're writing and what you're singing, because that's what makes a song. I personally believe anyway. And a lot of the stuff like Black Train, which is my single, which is coming out 3rd of April, so tomorrow, because this is Sunday, it's being aired Sunday. um
In the future.
Absolutely, yeah, this is it. So Black Train's more, it's truthful song about feelings and stuff like that, but I find writing metaphorically is um, a style of mine. Sort of being able to sort of place metaphors with scenarios and situations. It makes it harder to explain things, I guess, in the way I've sort of portrayed that. And then I've also got a couple of other songs where they are home truths, they are bare bones and stuff like that. There's no direct message or direct pinpoint to a person, place, or thing, but the premise of the song is there. It's understandable, and um, your listeners, if they listen to my music, they'll see my point. So
Yeah, I love that. I think writing metaphorically is awesome. I do that as well. And just there's a variety, obviously. Like some songs will be more direct, some will be more metaphorical. And I think as songwriters, the goal is to be fresh all the time. We have our
Oh
voices and we
yeah.
have our styles, but we don't want to write the same song over and over and over again. And so, to your other point about, writing when you feel the inspiration and not forcing it and all of that, however that inspiration comes and whatever story or emotion you're trying to translate into music at the time, it's going to transpire in a way that makes sense for that song and that story. So it makes sense that not every song is going to sound the same or be written with the same tools and same styles or any of that. So you mentioned your new single, Black Train. So can you share a little about the inspiration behind this and what it's about?
So the inspiration behind Black Train is, basically you've had a troubled past and everything, and you're gonna face it and you're gonna fight it and do all you can and basically stand up to everything that's ever sort of knocked you down or set you off on a wrong path. But then there's that sort of, towards the end of the song, it's kind of thinking, can I let go of the past? Can I outrun it and stuff like that? And facing your demons, facing your fears, and basically facing yourself. I think that's the main focus of it. The song. I mean, there's a line in it. I'm going to face the devil. I'm going to grab him by the hand. I'm going to ask him why he wants to give me that their bloody brand. And it's basically going down a wrong path, or stopping yourself from going down a wrong path. And it doesn't necessarily mean like criminality or anything like that. It could be mental. It could be, you know, addiction or habits, or just basically just not being yourself or your true self and whatnot, and trying to fight that and break that habit, break that mold, do stuff differently and everything, and that's kind of what the premise of that song is. And it came out organically, and I wrote that at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, literally just sat up. I think I was watching TV, on the sofa, and that with the dog, with Rosie, my Jack Russell Cocker Spaniel cross, and then,
Aw.
yeah, and then just started writing, and that was the second song I've had with the dog, just chilling out with her and sort of staring into space and stuff like that. She's become like my little best friend
Aw.
since we got her 2 years ago, nearly 2 years ago, and that calmed me down a lot as well. So there'll be a song, you'll hear a song about Rosie soon as well. So
Aw. So perfect.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I love everything you shared about the inspiration for that song. And I think writing a song with a concept like that, you wrote it from your own experience and needed to write a song about that. But because of what the message is, I can relate to it. Like, so many thoughts are
yeah.
going through my head. I'm like, oh, yeah, like this thing in my life, or this is me right now for this certain reason or whatever. And writing about something so truthful like that, someone listening, anyone all over the world can hear that and find themselves in it in whatever way they need to. So super relatable for sure.
I'm proud of Black Train and how it came out and the reception I've had, because I play it live. And I had a gig on at the weekend at a it's actually the first venue that ever gave me a paid gig, and it's called the Molehole Micro Pub in Gravesend in Kent, and it's a little cellar bar, and it's really really nice. And the people that own it and run it, there's sort of like a pool of people, and they're the most humble, genuine people you'll ever meet. And the main person there, her name's Tracy Patterson. She's an absolute lovely lady. She's like your favorite auntie. She's always welcoming, and she, every time I play, she'll put her cowgirl boots on and everything.
Oh
It's
my
it's it's,
god.
it's awesome, yeah. And this time around, I drew quite a big crowd there, and it's nice for people following me for my music, and it's really really humbling. And at the end of the gig, I got an encore, and I played Black Train again. I started it, the first half of the set, and I was booked for two 45-minute sets, and I ended up playing for, I think it was an extra 45, because the night just went that well, and everyone was enjoying themselves, and the reception Black Train received was mind blowing for me. I started doing live performances, about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's just taken like an uphill trajectory and stuff like that. And it's really humbling that I've been able to go from being nowhere to now making music and releasing music. And my face might not fit now, but I'm sure people keep seeing it, like it or not. you know, and
Perfect.
and and also I've got my debut EP's coming out on the 20th of May and everything. So it's a 5 song EP, which is titled Black Train as well. So my single Black Train, new single Black Train is on that EP as well. Along with, they're all written by me, and they're produced by an absolute legend, Oz Craggs in Folkestone in Kent. And I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
That's fantastic. So just overall, what do you hope that this EP as a whole, when it's out, presents to listeners, or is there an overall message you hope that it shares?
That I'm here and I'm here to stay, like it or not, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to write from the heart, shoot from the hip, and get my message across. And if people like it, then that's a plus and a bonus, and the thing is, I hope that I can show, the states, where country is the biggest selling music genre in existence, really, if you think about it, that us English guys, we can do country, or I can.
Yes, and you will keep on doing it. Well, it was
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you European outlaw country. That's what I'll give you.
Oh my
Something a
gosh.
bit different.
Well, it's lovely having you. Before we go, what is some advice you would like to share to anyone just getting started in the music industry?
Just do it. Don't care what other people think. Because the only people that should care about what you do is yourself. I was nervous as hell the first time I took the stage and everything. And when you're first starting out, even if it's not your own material, find a song that resonates and you can relate to and absolutely nail it. Mine was Nose on the Grindstone by Tyler Childers, and I absolutely idolize the man's songwriting ability and his ability to absolutely nail it every time he performs. Good Kentucky boy, and just absolutely belt it out, because you'd be more surprised than you think how people take you.
Perfect. So, so inspirational. Well, James, it was an honor having you on the show for this
No, thank you
fantastic
for having me.
conversation. Of course, it was lovely having you. Before we go, can you share with everyone where they can find you online and listen to your music?
Right, you can find me on Apple Music, Spotify. So it's James Dunne, Dunne. So it's because sometimes people struggle spelling my name. It gets spelt June, like sand dune. Um, Amazon Music and Spotify as well. Yeah. So, and obviously my social medias are James Dunn Music UK, Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for joining me. It was awesome having you on the show. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this fantastic conversation with James Dunn. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.